We have never received a testimony as sincere and moving as the one you are about to watch. This brother has opened his heart completely, sharing one of the most honest and personal experiences we've ever encountered. He reveals how he sold everything in preparation for the rapture, a decision both heartbreaking and deeply convicting. But what he experienced afterward is truly shocking and mind-blowing. He is currently in the hospital, yet what Jesus revealed to him concerning the rapture will shake you to the core and open your eyes in a way you may have never imagined. Watch carefully to the end to fully grasp his experience and the powerful message behind it. We'd love to know the time and location from which you're watching. Please share it in the comments so we can connect as one family in Christ. We truly love and celebrate you, beloved. My name is Elias Brandt. Sir, please, I will love to keep my location hidden for security purposes, please. For most of my life I worked in a small real estate business, buying and managing houses, and saving for retirement. My wife passed away a few years ago, and since then I had been living alone, trying to fill the silence with church activities, reading, and volunteering. One evening in early summer, I was scrolling through online sermons when I came across a preacher named Joshua. His words were like fire. He spoke about the rapture with such boldness that it felt as if he had stepped out of the Bible itself. He said the Lord had shown him that in September the rapture would happen. He did not sound like a man making guesses. He sounded sure. At first I was cautious. Over the years I had heard many predictions that came and went. But something about Joshua's voice and the way he spoke about his vision shook me. It was not just the date, it was the way he talked about urgency, about living ready. I started to pray about it, and each time I did, I felt a weight on my heart, like an alarm ringing. It was as if God Himself was waking me up. I began to read my Bible late into the night. Passages about watchfulness and preparation jumped out at me. The more I prayed, the more I became convinced that this was not just a passing message. I felt like a man standing on a mountain seeing a storm coming while everyone else stayed in the valley. The sense of urgency became so strong that I could not keep it to myself. I started telling people at church, at the gas station, even at the grocery store. I spoke about how Jesus could return in September, how we must repent and prepare. Some looked at me kindly, some laughed, some told me not to get carried away. But I could not stop. It was like a fire in my bones. As the days moved toward September, my whole life began to revolve around this message. I would wake up in the morning thinking about Christ's return and go to bed at night praying for my neighbors. It was not only about fear, it was about love. I didn't want anyone to be left behind. I felt like God had placed me on this path to warn others. I told myself that even if people mocked me, at least they would have heard the warning. As the days drew closer to September, the conviction inside me kept growing heavier. I could no longer think about the future the way I once did. Owning land, 2 houses, and some savings in the bank no longer gave me peace. If the rapture was truly so near, what use were walls and bricks and bank accounts? I felt like a man storing water when a flood was already at the door. I remember kneeling in my room one night and asking the Lord if I should let go of everything I had, and though I didn't hear a voice, I felt a clear push in my spirit. It was as if God was telling me that what I held in my hands was not mine, but His. So I made the hardest decision of my life. I put the land up for sale, and soon it was gone. The first house followed, then the second. Within weeks, everything I had worked for over decades was no longer in my name. People thought I was crazy, but I felt free. I didn't waste the money on comfort or pleasure. Instead, I began looking around at the needs in my own town. There was an orphanage nearby that was struggling to feed and clothe the children. I gave them a large sum, enough to cover their needs for months. I walked through the neighborhood and found families who could barely pay rent or buy food. Quietly, I placed money in their hands, telling them it was from God. But my giving didn't stop there. I remembered the missionaries I had met years ago who worked in Africa, places where the gospel was preached with little or no support. I sent large donations to those movements, and I felt joy knowing that Bibles would be printed, pastors would be supported, and children would hear about Jesus because of what I gave. I also sent money to evangelistic efforts in Asia, South America, and small ministries in America that struggled to keep going. Each time I gave, I felt lighter, as if I was trading earthly things for heavenly treasures. Neighbors started whispering about me. Some said I had lost my mind. Others said I was wasting my future. But deep inside, I didn't care. I believed September was the finish line, and I wanted to cross it without anything holding me down. When I walked past the orphanage and saw the children smiling with food in their hands, I told myself this was better than any house I could own. When I read letters from missionaries thanking me for the unexpected help, my heart swelled. I felt as though heaven was smiling on me. September finally arrived, and with it came a storm of emotions inside me. Each morning I would wake with my heart racing, wondering if today would be the day. I prayed longer, fasted harder, and watched the skies as if any moment they might split open. I had told so many people that the rapture was coming, and I had given away everything I owned to prepare for it. My whole life felt like it was leaning on this month. But then the days began to slip by. The first week came and went. Each night I went to bed with expectation, and each morning I woke up still here. I tried to keep the fire of faith burning, but I will not lie, it grew harder with each passing day. I kept listening to Joshua's sermons, waiting for an update, waiting for some new word that would explain the delay. But the silence became heavy. By the end of September, I felt like a man standing in an empty field after a promised harvest failed to come. I was not just disappointed, I was shaken. I sat in my room one night with my Bible open and tears on my face. I asked God why the promise had not happened. I asked if Joshua had deceived me, or if I had deceived myself. The conviction I once felt so strongly now pressed on me like a weight of confusion. I had believed with all my heart, and yet here I was, still waiting, still searching. I tried to remind myself that the Lord's timing is not ours, and that His return is still certain even if men cannot fix the date. But in my human weakness, doubt crept in. I questioned whether I had been foolish to sell my houses and land. I questioned whether I had misheard God in my prayers. Some nights, I even questioned if God saw me at all. I am not going to pretend, I felt deeply disturbed. The thought of starting over again, rebuilding what I had given away, seemed impossible. I was not a young man anymore. My energy was limited, and my years were not many. It was like staring at a mountain too high to climb. Still, even in the middle of my confusion, one thing did not leave me, the conviction that the rapture was near. I could not explain it, but despite my disappointment, I still felt deep in my soul that Jesus was coming soon. Not in September as I had thought, but soon. Very soon. And that single thread of hope was what I held on to, even as my heart wrestled with fear and doubt. After the date ended, my days grew heavier than I could carry. I tried to smile when people asked how I was doing, but inside I was falling apart. Every time I walked through town, I saw people I had warned about the rapture, and I felt the sting of their eyes. Some looked at me with pity, some with quiet judgment, and some even laughed. Their looks cut deeper than words. I had believed so strongly, and now I felt exposed and empty. At home, the silence became unbearable. I would sit in my chair staring at the walls, asking myself over and over what had gone wrong. My body felt weak, as if all my strength had drained out of me. Sleep would not come easily. Some nights I lay awake until dawn, my mind chasing questions with no answers. The weight of regret pressed on me like a heavy stone, especially when I thought about the land and houses I had sold. Even though I had given it all for good reasons, I wondered if I had been reckless. The thought of starting from nothing at my age felt crushing. One afternoon, I was walking down the steps of my porch when my legs suddenly felt weak. My vision blurred, and before I could grab the rail, I collapsed. Darkness rushed over me, and I remember nothing more until voices were shouting and hands were lifting me up. My neighbor, a kind woman named Mrs. Taylor, had seen me fall and called for help. An ambulance came quickly, and I was rushed to the hospital. When I woke up, I was lying in a bed with white sheets, tubes in my arm, and machines beeping beside me. A doctor told me I had collapsed from exhaustion, stress, and a sudden drop in blood pressure. My body had carried the weight of too much worry, and it finally gave out. I lay there weak and broken, wondering if my life had reached its end. It was in that place of weakness, in that hospital bed, that something beyond this world happened to me. What I am about to share is not a dream, not my imagination. It was as real as the breath in my lungs. In that moment of silence between life and death, I was taken into another realm. As I lay on that hospital bed, the noise of machines and voices slowly faded away, and I felt myself slipping into a silence deeper than anything I had known before. Then, suddenly, it was as if I was standing in a place that was not Earth. The air was different, brighter, filled with a peace so strong it almost hurt. I looked around and realized I was not in the hospital anymore. I was in a place beyond time. I became aware that someone was with me. I did not need to ask who he was. My soul knew. It was Jesus. His presence was not like anything I can describe with earthly words. It was a mixture of perfect love, authority, and truth. I could not even lift my eyes at first, but I felt him draw me close, not to condemn me but to show me what I had not understood. He led me into a room that shone with light, yet the light did not come from lamps or the sun. The walls themselves seemed alive, filled with the glory of God. In that room I felt as though all masks were stripped away. There was no pretending, no excuses. It was a place where truth and reality stood uncovered. I understood that here, nothing could be hidden, not the secrets of men's hearts, not the plans of nations, not even the smallest thought. In the center of the room stood 3 great glances, like mirrors or windows, but not made of glass. I knew somehow that each one contained a story of the earth, a picture of what was and what would be. My heart trembled, but at the same time, I longed to see what they held. Jesus let me know that these glances would reveal to me things I needed to understand, not just for myself, but to tell others. He revealed that though I had misunderstood the message of September, the conviction of his coming was still true, and that he would show me glimpses of what was about to unfold on earth. As I stood in that shining room, the first of the 3 glances came alive before my eyes. It glowed with a brightness so intense that I had to shield my face at first. Slowly the light settled, and I could see inside it as though I were watching a great moving picture. At the center of the vision was a date, but not a day, only a month and a year. It read, November 2025. My heart began to pound. I asked myself what this date could mean. Why November? Why that year? My mind was racing, but before I could say a word, Jesus let me know that in the month of November, a wave of judgment would begin to move across the earth. He revealed to me that many lives would be called home, not just by natural means, but by a shaking that would touch nations and families. He made me understand that this would not be a single event but the beginning of a season where people would leave this world in great numbers. The glance widened, and I began to see images I can hardly describe. I saw cities trembling, people crying, and families broken by sudden loss. I also saw prominent figures, people whose names were known across the earth, being taken away. I will not call their names, for that is not my place, but I knew that when these people leave, the world will take notice. It will be as if God himself is sounding a trumpet that no one can ignore. I was troubled as I watched. My chest felt heavy, and I asked within myself why this had to happen. Jesus revealed to me that death was not the end for those who belong to him. He let me know that when men leave the earth, their wealth and positions are transferred to others, and that through this, I would see how what I had sacrificed for his kingdom would not be lost. He revealed that everything I gave away in faith would be restored, though not always in the form I had known before. It was as though he was saying that no gift given to God is wasted. After the vision of November faded, my eyes turned to the second glance. At first it was dim, like a window covered with mist. Then suddenly it cleared, and I saw one word written across it, October. The sight confused me, because in the order of months, October comes before November, yet here it appeared after. I realized then that what I was being shown was not bound by our earthly calendar but by God's own order of events. The glance opened wider, and what I saw filled me with both sorrow and joy. I saw governments across many nations passing policies that pressed heavily against believers. It was not always in open violence but in laws, restrictions, and pressures that made it harder for the church to stand firm. I saw Christians losing jobs, pastors silenced, and gatherings watched with suspicion. It looked painful, and I felt the weight of their suffering. But then, something powerful began to rise out of that pressure. I saw voices lifted in prayer like a mighty river. Believers from different backgrounds and nations came together with one heart. Denominations and divisions no longer mattered. They prayed, they sang, they preached in boldness. Their unity became a fire that spread across the earth. Jesus let me know that this was the hidden strength of persecution. What was meant to silence the church would instead push it into revival. I saw gatherings so full of the Spirit that whole cities felt the impact. The gospel spread faster, carried by people who had once been silent but now spoke with courage. Young and old stood side by side, declaring the truth of Christ with no fear. There was great rejoicing in these scenes. I saw tears of pain turn into tears of worship. The church, once divided and weakened, became strong and alive. The persecution did not destroy it, it refined it. I understood that in this October season, God's people would shine brighter than ever, and the world would not be able to ignore them. When the vision of October faded, my attention was drawn to the last of the three glances. This one felt different even before it opened. There was a heaviness around it, a silence that seemed to press on me. Slowly, words appeared across its surface: December. The letters were there, clear as day, but unlike the others, there was no brightness, no moving pictures, no sound. Only darkness filled the space behind the word. I leaned closer, hoping to see something, but all I could make out was a deep blackness, as if the glance refused to open any further. My heart began to stir with questions. I asked myself what this darkness meant. Was it danger, was it judgment, or was it something hidden that men were not yet meant to know? The silence of it troubled me more than the visions of November and October. At least in those I could see what was coming, but here, I faced only mystery. Jesus stood beside me, and though he did not explain the meaning of the darkness, I understood from his presence that some things were not for me to know. He let me feel that this darkness was not an accident but a warning to stay alert. It was as if he was saying that not everything about the future can be revealed, and some things must remain in God's hands. The more I stared at the darkness, the more I felt small. I realized that human understanding has limits, and no matter how much we seek, there will always be mysteries that only God holds. I wanted answers, but at the same time, I felt a peace settle over me. It was a reminder that my role was not to explain everything but to trust. After the last glance faded, the heavenly place around me began to grow still. The light that had filled the air slowly dimmed, and the voices I had heard, songs, whispers, and the sound of heaven itself, fell quiet. I realized that the vision was drawing to a close. My heart was heavy, not because of fear, but because I did not want to leave that presence. Lying there in that hospital bed, weak in my body but awake in my spirit, I knew why the Lord had spared me. It was not only for my own sake but so that I could carry this testimony to others. The visions of the three glances were not just pictures of months, they were warnings and calls to prepare. I understood more deeply than ever that life is short and uncertain. No one can say with surety what tomorrow holds, but all of us can choose who we walk with today. Jesus showed me that storms will come, persecution will rise, and mysteries will remain hidden, but through it all, those who cling to him will never be abandoned. My heart aches when I think of how many people take their walk with God lightly, as if there will always be more time. But I have seen how fragile that thought is. Time is not promised. The Lord is calling us to live awake, to pray, to love, to forgive, and to study his word. I want to tell every believer, do not waste your days. Do not wait until trouble comes before you seek him. Strengthen your faith now, because when the storm arrives, it will be too late to build your foundation. The time to draw close to God is today. To those who do not yet know Christ, I plead with you, do not harden your heart. The same Jesus who stood with me in that place of light is reaching out to you now. He is full of mercy and love, but he is also the righteous judge. Tomorrow is not guaranteed, but salvation is offered freely today. My vision ended, but its echo has never left me. I carry it as both a burden and a hope. The burden is that many still live unprepared, but the hope is that God is faithful to awaken his people. I survived death not to return to the old life, but to bear witness. So I leave you with this: take your walk with God seriously. Love one another deeply. Pray without ceasing. Study his word and hold fast to his truth. The days ahead may be dark, but those who trust in the Lord will shine like lights that no darkness can overcome.